Hello, good morning and welcome to NewsX. We're live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125. Across all our social media handles, we're Joe News on TV. Coming up, mixed reactions to the Supreme Court ruling that the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Babing, erred in declaring 4 seats vacant. We're live in all our social media handles, as well as getting reactions from the NDC and the NPP side. Also coming up, NPP MP for Adansi Asokwa files police complaint against the NDC MP James Aveji, alleging assault following the indefinite suspension of Parliament. We have details of that. Also in the bulletin, we get into the mind of Kwame Owusu-Danso, known to many as KOD. He is a vice presidential candidate for Alan Tremanting's Movement for Change, and we're having a conversation with him here on NewsX. My name is Faustina Savo. You should take a seat and be my guest. Thanks for staying with us. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Now, there are mixed reactions to the Supreme Court's ruling on the vacant seat saga. While some believe the Supreme Court's decision that the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Babing's ruling declaring 4 seats vacant is unconstitutional, others think the Supreme Court should have allowed Parliament to work on its own. Well, the former Supreme Court Judge, Justice William Atudua, says the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Babing, is bound by the Supreme Court's recent ruling, which overturned his decision to declare the 4 seats vacant. Well, he notes that per the Supreme Court's decision, the 4 affected members of Parliament are entitled to return to Parliament and participate in legislative proceedings. He spoke to my colleague Elton Brobe on the pulse.
And according to this rule, general provisions don't override specific provisions. And so once the specific power about vacancy of seats is given to the High Court, the general powers hanging there cannot override the special provision. Otherwise, that special provision will be rendered completely hopeless.
Meaning the Supreme Court had no business going into this.
Yes, I'm coming. They have a kind of, what do you call it, referential jurisdiction.
Right.
That's to say, this matter, which is a vacancy of parliamentary seat matter, is for the High Court. However, if the parties there contend that some legal provision relating to this matter is ambiguous and it's a constitutional provision, then at 132 requires that the High Court will stay the provisions and refer just that issue of interpretation to the Supreme Court.
In this case, this was not done.
This wasn't, it went straight.
Or this was not exploited.
It wasn't exploited. It wasn't exploited. And number 2, you see, the question of even the referral, when the issue arises, it doesn't mean that any time it's alleged that there's an issue for the interpretation, the High Court automatically must state it will have to consider whether the provision in question is actually ambiguous. If in its opinion it is not ambiguous, can proceed with the case.
But the Speaker, yes.
If a party is satisfied, can go to a Supreme Court on supervisory jurisdiction to quash the view of the High Court and order it to refer that issue to it, or refer the issue to itself for determination. And after determining it, they send that determination to the High Court, and they dispose of the case insofar as the issue requiring interpretation is concerned. But then The final determination of the matter is from the High Court.
But Justice,
yes.
This is a case where an arm of government,
yes.
the leader of an arm of government,
yes.
gave a ruling
yes.
based on his understanding
yes.
of what the Constitution says.
Yes.
And then a member challenges that decision.
Yes.
Clearly, one would say that the Supreme Court was the avenue or the platform to bring finality to this matter.
Yes, but their finality, is governed by the same provision. Their finality will come when the court, given that jurisdiction over that specific matter, has difficulty. The parties have raised a difficult interpretational matter concerning it. They say, oh, okay, this thing is not that clear. So they are bound to reflect to the Supreme Court. That's how the Supreme Court comes in. That's how the Supreme Court will come in. But not ab initio. That's just straight away.
William Atuguba there. Well, the former President Kufuor has also been speaking on the matter. He says he expects strong leadership from the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin. He expects that when Parliament reconvenes, this leadership will take effect. He spoke on Asempa FM.
And Kufuor says there is strict separation of powers in any case. Then you can say executive president here on for majority of ministers from Parliament. Immediately, just a hybrid, just a executive. Judiciary, by operation of law, no, passive. But we need to activate it. On all financial what the Constitution intends and means. Sure. But for Ghana's sake, be a baby, Casa, make us be a binone in a much day. Influence the situation. Okay. But at the end of the day, no. Speaker, no, Netria, Parliament, no. And intina mess, and I say. One yen tono hoso. What depending? Says a which Ghana history. The Tunisian movie. Yeah, Miss Answer. History, no. On my recording in ways, yeah. Was 7 by Nachapa. Yeah. Only in the fair. Chance because a Nipasuna. Did they be buying a parliament to cry and no one crab the be buying them and I don't wish that for him. To Mr. Renara, Mr. Ren for Ghana's sake, on throw beyond funny for me, no one's through me say, Mumra Metrances will be answering baby and what it done. Yam fan yes, I can't bust me on that bus.
NDC MP and Member of Parliament of and a Member of Parliament and a Member of Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, Cletus Avoka, is also a former majority leader as well. He joins us on the line with more. Thank you so much for your time here on News 6. Let me get your brief reaction. As a member of the Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament, what's your thoughts about the Supreme Court's ruling yesterday that declared the Speaker's declaration of the 4th seat vacant is unconstitutional?
Yes, thank you so much, and good morning to your listeners. Let me say that I'm also credited with being a member of the defunct Consultative Assembly that drew the 1992 Constitution, the subject matter of our discussion. The present controversy that we are having about these 4 MPs, who of course is needless. And I think that the intervention by the Supreme Court and then their earlier ruling, or the ruling they gave yesterday or 2 days ago, that the Speaker's declaration of the status of the 4 MPs is unconstitutional. I find that very absurd.
Why? Why absurd?
It's very, very absurd. It's absurd against the background that we are bogged down. For some time now, we have been concentrating on the barring legal technicalities on this subject. We have not been addressing the substance of the matter. We have not been addressing the mischief for the provision of Article 97 G and H. There were good reasons why that article was provided in the Constitution. And we should be addressing the issues. We should be addressing the substance. We should be addressing the mischief for which they wanted to cure, rather than be concentrating on whose responsibility or who has the right to declare the seat vacant, whether the Speaker, the Supreme Court, the High Court, etc. I think it's needless. That effort is needless. I'm saying so because we put that provision there because we wanted to ensure the sovereign will of the people. If we look at Article 1 of the Constitution, Article 25 of the Constitution, that says that justice emanates from the people. Article 1 talks about the will of the people is sovereign. And then Article 36, the directive principle of state policy, talk about the sovereignty of the people. Now, if the sovereignty of the people is the key, and the integrity, the honesty, the reliability, and then is the key, then we should be looking at the fact that we want to prevent fraud. We want to prevent people who deny the sovereign people of their decision. You are elected by the people, the sovereign people, on a particular party ticket, or as an independent candidate to parliament. Then you come to, for the 8th parliament, you come to parliament. The 8th parliament is still in progress. The 8th parliament will come to an end, come 6th January 2025. Now, you have filed your nomination, abandoning the party that brought you to parliament to go to another party. We are talking about now. So, by virtue of that, you have several relations with the party that brought you to parliament. You have changed the status of the party that brought you to parliament, and therefore you have crossed carpet. And therefore, by the provision of the Constitution, automatically you go. This Article 97 is intended to be declared, to be declared by the Speaker. Whether that is there. It doesn't need constitutional interpretation. It is unambiguous. It is very, very clear. Very simple English. That if you are in Parliament on the party ticket and then you decide to file a nomination for another party or as an independent, you automatically fit your status as belong to that. Simple. It doesn't need interpretation.
Well, but the Supreme Court's interpretation. Cletus, let me come in at this point. The Supreme Court's interpretation is that the Speaker acted unconstitutionally. I would like to find out, as a leading member of the NDC, a member of the Parliament's Legal Affairs Committee, and as a former majority leader, should Parliament reconvene today, what aisle will the NDC members of Parliament be sitting at?
Well, as a lawyer and then a senior legislator, I think that we should avoid any conflict between the three arms of government. And I think that if we reconvene Parliament, thank you, Elijah. If we are able to go back to Parliament today, we will expect the Speaker to inform us of the Supreme Court decision. We will expect the Speaker to inform the House of the Supreme Court decision, and therefore we will have to fall in line. Whether the Supreme Court decision is right or wrong, we have agreed and adopted that Constitution and given them that power of supervisory rule over all the organs, in terms of the interpretation of the Constitution. So we will respect it, even though we disagree with the ruling. I think that we should respect it, but I sincerely disagree with the ruling of the Supreme Court. And
you say you will respect it, but I want you to clarify for me. Should Parliament reconvene today, would you occupy the majority aisles of the House?
Why are you speculating? Let us convene.
It's a question.
And then let the Speaker make the announcement, and then we will fall in line.
Until the Speaker makes the announcement, where would the NDC be sitting?
When we convene, this is going to happen and whatnot. I don't think that. I want to avoid speculation. I will expect that.
But this is not speculation. I'm asking you.
The Speaker will inform us about the decision of the Supreme Court, the ruling of the Supreme Court, and then we will respect that aspect.
The Supreme Court's verdict is supreme. You are saying until the Speaker of Parliament makes an official declaration to the House, then you will respect it.
He announces the decision of the Supreme Court to us. He doesn't need to declare. He officially informs us about the decision of the rule of the Supreme Court, and we will respect it as such. Yeah.
Let's look at...
The Speaker doesn't need to declare. It's not an issue of declaration. It's an issue to officially inform the House that the matter was not between Parliament or between MPs and then the Supreme Court. The majority leader, Kufuor LSNT, was against the Speaker's decision. So we are not bound by it. But at the Supreme Court, we respect the Supreme Court decision.
We've been hearing from the majority leader, Alexander Feyomark, and he's hoping that the Speaker will do the needful and recall the House else they might have to trigger another emergency meeting. There are talks behind the scenes that indeed both the majority side of the House and the minority side of the House, you need to come together as one for the greater good of the country. Do you agree?
I agree entirely. I think that what we are doing now is a disservice to ourselves and then to Mother Ghana. We should agree as submit as a caucus of the entire House, or committee of the whole of the House, and then judge there and then come back with something that benefits the rest of the country. We have only about a month left to elections, or even less than that. And then we have some few things to do before, and particularly if we have to look at the budget for the next 3 months of next year and a few other areas. I think that we have that responsibility to the people of Ghana, and therefore we must come together, iron out our differences, and work together.
Thank you, Cletus
The people of Ghana had decided that in 2020. That's why they gave us a hung parliament, so that we should normally discuss things and agree by consensus and implement them. And then I think that we should respect the people's will.
Thank you, Cletus Avoka. He is a member of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament. Now, away from Parliament, Member of Parliament for Adansia Sokwa, Katie Hammond, has filed a criminal complaint against Member of Parliament for Ketu North, James Kluchi-Aveji. Katie Hammond, in his complaint to the police, alleges that he has been assaulted by the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. A video, as you can see on your screens, has gone viral following the indefinite adjournment of Parliament last week, where some NDC MPs are seen haggling with the Trades Minister. Well, Katie Hammond says he will pursue his complaint to the logical conclusion that it deserves. Let's listen to Katie Hammond.
Human beings in that parliament, we are human beings. We exhibit human instincts. We are not animals, and we don't exhibit animalistic instincts. I do not understand why on a matter where my colleagues, are discussing, and I wasn't actually talking to the particular Afeji man. I was talking to my nephew, Ato Forsen, the minority leader. I was saying to him, Ato, it is your responsibility to make sure in the circumstances of this case, the Speaker of the House abides by the ruling of the Supreme Court. So talk to him. Show leadership. That's the person I was talking to. This man came out of nowhere and started pushing me. You guys have all seen the pictures, the videos, pushing. I kept shouting, you can't push me like that. What is your business? Why are you doing that? He pushed me about 5 times. What did you think he was doing? So I have a complaint. Yes, I've signed a complaint. There are times where colleague MPs this is not colleagues. We are not animals in there. Yes, anyway.
Well, today in the studio, I'll be bringing in KOD. He is the running mate for Alan Tremonting. We'll be getting into his vision, his thoughts, how he plans to revolutionize the whole political scene. And we'll be doing that when we come back from this break. Thanks for staying with us here on Newsdesk. Well, today my guest in the studio is Elijah Kwame Osudansu. He's known to many as KOD. He is the vice presidential candidate for Movement for Change. Now, at just 40, he brings a rich and varied background to the political scene. A lawyer by profession, once upon a time a rapper, a morning show host. He's nodding his head as we speak. And he's here to share with us his vision as he partners with Alan Tremonting to offer what he calls a new direction to the country. And we'll be delving into his plans to address Ghana's leadership challenges, his ideas on youth inclusiveness, and how he envisions a Ghana that speaks for itself on the African stage. That's my guest in the studio, KOD. You're welcome.
Thank you very kindly for having me.
A lawyer,
yeah.
Once upon a time a morning show host,
yeah.
Once upon a time an activist. I know you used to work with CDD.
Yeah, no, not CDD. I did some work with them. What I had was Forum for Accountability,
okay,
which I birthed in 2018. Essentially to have discussions about Ghana and our democracy and what all of us can cumulatively do to ensure the survival of our young democracy. So I started that in 2018, but I invited, as part of my speakers at the time, the boss of CDD, and that is why the perception has been created.
Oh, I see.
But I worked closely with them because I also did learn a thing or two from them. And I think that is why people think that I worked with CDD, but I have never really directly worked with CDD.
We've seen evolving stages of KOD.
Yep.
Once you were doing music, once journalism,
Yeah.
now politics.
Yeah.
At just 40, we're wondering,
Yeah.
this new energy you're bringing on board,
Yeah.
but why politics though?
Well, I think that, our collective futures are shaped by leaders that we elect into office. And it is important that as young people, we must be involved in what shape our futures, collective futures. And so if we always sit on the fence and engage in rhetorics and platitudes without necessarily involving ourselves directly with who leads us and what kind of policies they design for the purposes of bringing about change, particularly amongst the youth, then I think we are doing ourselves a great disservice. To that end, I found it very expedient to be actively involved and not just to sit on TV and to lament and sit on social media and to comment on government policies and things like that. But once I find myself within the arena of decision making, then I believe that I would use that as a springboard to address the very many teething challenges confronting the good people of Ghana, particularly the youth. Because I'm 40, so I'm within that bracket. In my estimation, I will be able to further advance the aspirations and be the voice that they need in that higher office so that our aspirations can be met. And that is why I decided to be an active player in this exercise. Also because I've heard countless number of times, and I'm sure you have also heard, a lot of people say that, I'm not interested in politics, politics is dirty. Yeah, but if you're not interested in politics, other people will be interested in it. Other people will take decisions on your behalf, and those decisions may invariably affect you going forward. So we must all be active players and partakers in this enterprise called politics, so that we can shape the direction of our dear nation, Ghana. It's very, very important.
But why movement for change, though?
Yeah.
Why not other political parties?
Well, that's a brilliant question. I think that we have experienced these two political parties for over 32 years. I think that we've not, addressed our minds to this entrenched duopoly that we have created as Ghanaians. That we think that the failure of one political party automatically must reverse to a party that maybe we sacked previous years. Now, if you look at the NDC, for instance, they've had the opportunity of governing this country for 16 years. Similarly, if you look at the MPP, they've had an opportunity of, and I call it an opportunity because the good people of Ghana gave them that privilege to serve this country for 16 years. So a combination of both gives you 32 good years. China only needed 32 years to resuscitate their economy, and now everybody wants to go to China. Now, what we lack in this country is leadership. We do not have the right leaders. We do not have people who think about the future of this nation. We don't have leaders who think about the young, men and women we have in this country, very endearing young men and women in this country. And so we do not have people who care deeply about all of us. And so to pander to the NDC or the MPP will be doing a great disservice to my generation. And so if we have a movement that has identified all these challenges that we have relative to our political experiment and have come out to form a movement where it does not matter which political party you belong to, insofar as you're a Ghanaian and you have what it takes to contribute to the significant growth of this country, you will be invited, to help do that. Then why not? At least, at the very least, it gives us an opportunity to also test the system. The reason why it appears to me that people always gravitate towards either the NDC or the MPP is because we have not had the benefit of a real political movement that will present real alternatives to the duopoly that we have. And in my estimation, it is precisely why people always go back to the NDC and the MPP. Also, you've noticed that, when we are even having conversations, especially journalists, some way, somehow, we've bought into this systemic, I call it systemic imbalances, where, even on our political platforms, it's either the NDC or the MPP. So people naturally listen and their thinking patterns are shaped by, what we present to them as journalists. And so we do not give them an opportunity of having an objective, mindset relative to the political parties that we present to them. And so they are forced to just follow the wagon. Now, obviously, NDC thinks that it is coming back to power. You know why? Because in their estimation, the failure of the MPP automatically should mean that the NDC should come back to power, right? But what are they comparing? They are comparing the failures of the MPP, and they are comparing their own, in their estimation, their own failures, right? So obviously, if you pull parity with the MPP now and the NDC, they would say that theirs were better in terms of performance, in terms of maybe job creation, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of their fight against corruption, etc. But the only reason why they are comparing the two is because the two are the only political parties which have had the opportunity of governing this country. If we get an opportunity of experiencing a third force out of these two political parties, then we'll be able to do proper objective analysis of the performance or otherwise of these two political parties.
I'll come to you to find out how prepared you are to be the next big thing in Ghana.
Right.
But you are offering solutions to the youth.
Yeah.
You say that the youths, they're facing lots of challenges.
Absolutely.
But to offer solutions, you must be abreast with the challenges. So based on your research, what are the top 5 things the youths are concerned about? And what specific policy is Movement for Change proposing to deal with these challenges?
So the first thing that confronts all of us, the youth, is job. And obviously, that translates to mean that if you don't have jobs, you don't have money. That's the second point. The third point is shelter. The fourth point is our educational system. And the fifth point is our inability to create an environment where young people will be able to, by themselves, create jobs for themselves. So these are the 5 critical points that confronts the young people of this country. And that is why right now everybody is trying to survive by doing all sorts of things just so they can earn an income to be able to take care of themselves and their immediate family members. So the first point, job creation. It is undoubted. There's no iota of doubt in my mind that if we had the right leadership, jobs would have been created. Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had only 7 years. What did he do within those periods? He created jobs. He had a Bosso glass factory, he had a tomato factory, he had a shoe factory. He had all these factories working to ensure that the young people at the time were given the opportunity to work. And once you work, you get money for yourself. Now, what we are going to do is to challenge the status quo, is to say that, yes, we are at a point where our finances are not looking good, but we can look within to create opportunities for young people to be able to either establish businesses by themselves or for government to partner some foreign direct investors to create jobs for young people in this country. And I'm talking about, for instance, the immediate solution that we want to bring in addressing this, in my estimation, devastating issue of job creation is to create what we call the Traders Bank. Because for many of the young people who are in the informal sector, for instance, all they want is to buy and sell. They want to be able to trade, right? Now, how do we help them do that if they don't have finances? The very basic or fundamental issue that we deal with in terms of business building is finances. Now, we are going to create a Traders Bank that will enable young people who are interested in trade to access easy, simple funding so that they can start their own businesses. Now, this bank will be managed by the traders themselves. So if you're a young person, and for instance, you want to sell Kufuor Mako, that's my favorite, by the way, you can get soft loan to be able to do that without any interest. And that is what we are looking for. Look at the young man who is doing wonders now, Chicken Man, Pizza Man. I'm sure that if he had not gained access to funding, he would not be able to do the wonderful things he's doing now. And we are all proud of him because he's a young person who's making a bigger change in a space where, the system will crash you out.
So one down, 4 more to go.
So that's the point. Now, obviously, the flip side of job creation is money in your pocket. Now, when we are able to create an enterprise economy, an economy where young people can dare to dream, to start their own businesses, invariably, you are putting money in their pockets. Now, when you do that, that means that that circle that you know, because obviously human beings, we are from a certain close circle. Now, your immediate family members will benefit from that. Your children will benefit from that. Your sisters will benefit from that. You'll be able to now take care of your family members. Now, the other aspect of you know, the issues that I raised is in relation to housing or rent. As I speak to you now, young people are having to deal with something that could have easily been addressed by all of these successive governments that we've had. The issue of rent. Now, there is a law that is very specific to how many years landlords are supposed to charge relative to rent in this country. Section 25(2) of the Rent Act is clear that if you're a landlord, you cannot exceed 6 months in terms of, you know, rent charges.
Enforcement has always been a problem.
Absolutely. Now, that's the first thing we are going to do. We are going to insist on the enforcement of that specific law, which speaks directly to the issue of rent in this country. Now, the second point is also to now zone the housing system that we have. So, for instance, of course, I mean, there are so many people who have built their houses and they want to rent them out. What we are saying is that there are some houses, for instance, in Kwabenya, which houses does not really merit 1,800 Ghana cedis a month. But because in that catchment area, everybody is charging 1,500, they are also forced to charge 1,500 Ghana cedis a month. How do you expect a graduate, a young graduate, or somebody who's trying to find his feet, pay 1,500 Ghana cedis a month to go and rent in Dome Kwabenya? And when you check, so we're going to have this platform. Now, this platform is going to now bring in all the landlords and their properties onto that platform. So if you live in Dome Kwabenya, you click on Dome Kwabenya button on that platform. Now, when you click on it, all the houses in that area up for rent will come up. And then you will choose. So if we do valuation, obviously. So if your budget is, say, 200 to 300 Ghana cedis, when you click on 200 to 300 Ghana cedis, it will give you the options of houses within that, space. And if you want to rent a house worth 1,500 Ghana cedis, you have it. You can also check. So that at least we'll bring some sanity into the system. It is very, very fundamental. Where you put your head is very fundamental to how you survive as a human being. So that is precisely what we are going to do. Now, in my Greater Accra Regional Ghetto Tours, I have been going to the ghettos and engaging with the people who live in the ghettos, those who have been marginalized over the years by this system. And one of the major challenges that they are facing is housing. Now, they live in kiosk, and affordable housing, which has been built with our money, is rotten.
What will you do?
So, I mean, look, to begin with, if we get foreign investors, because obviously once you create a system where there's trust, investors will come in. Now, you partner with investors. You either, of course, I mean, we're going to now upgrade the one that we have here and make sure that we give it to Ghanaians, even if they are not going to buy it.
And that's what government plans to do. The
how long
housing project.
How long ago?
Put it out for private investors to come and take over the
because of how they want to do it. Not so we want to have a proper partnership. So there's an agreement that says either build, own, operate, transfer, or you build. People get the opportunity to buy and pay within a time frame, a specific time frame determined by government in consultation with the stakeholders. So we are not going to sit in Jubilee House and take decisions for the people. We are going to have a direct conversation with the direct beneficiaries of the policies that we are doing so that the people themselves will tell us how they want it done. Now, if you're an investor and we tell you that, okay, your salary is, let's say, 1,000 Ghana cedis, you will be able to pay maybe 800 Ghana cedis a month for this property. You're going to be able to pay it within a period of, let's say, 10 years. And that is agreed by all the parties. Then we'll be able to do that. Social interventions must not be directly, must not be a direct benefit for government. It must be for the people. If you're doing an intervention, it is for the people that is why you are doing those interventions. You are not doing those interventions for the purposes of scoring political points. So we are going to have direct stakeholder engagements with the people, and we are going to address their needs. Simplicity. without...
I have a lot of questions coming in from
Go ahead.
social media.
Go ahead.
I would like you to box in the last 3 points because we've dealt with job and housing.
Remind
box
me
it
of
very
the last
briefly.
three. Not two, actually.
You've done jobs, you've done housing.
And I've done money.
Money as well. Okay.
So
two more.
Two more. So the last two.
You have which other one?
I was talking about creating an environment where young people can aspire to be entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Now, what we intend to do, so for instance, what we have decided to do is to segregate the system.
Okay.
Now, we have the formal sector and we have the informal sector. Now, the formal sector is going to take care of, our graduates from the senior high schools, our graduates from the tertiary institutions, and all other allied institutions, right? Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to incentivize the banks so that the taxes that they are supposed to pay to the state, for instance, will be reduced. Now, when those taxes are reduced, we will have an arrangement with them where their profit margin, 10% of it, will be allocated to young entrepreneurs to give them soft loans and to pay interest at a very lower rate so that they will be able to start their businesses and thrive. Once they start their businesses, they would be able to...
same as the Traders Bank.
The Traders Bank is for the traders themselves, separate.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying that we have segregated it. So the informal sector, and the formal sector. Of course, there are some traders who fall within the category of the formal sector.
Okay.
But because of the way we have structured our country, it is very difficult for persons who have not had the opportunity of going to school to survive. And that is why we want to segregate it so that the banks, in partnership with the banks, will be able to take care of the formal sector, particularly the young people who have been to school, who have ideas, who have been able to hatch those ideas, to help them execute and sustain those ideas so they can create jobs for themselves and for the younger generation. Now, that's the reason why I'm saying this is because, and that is why I tried to compare with the chicken man, pizza man, gentleman. Now, look at the number of young people he's employed. Okay? So once we create that enabling environment for young people to now dare to take that bold step in creating jobs, then invariably we'd have created a lot more jobs for the youth of this country. And that is precisely what we're going to do, to facilitate that for them so that it will be easier for all of us. Now,
before we go into the next point, I just wanted to chip this in because a lot of questions I'm seeing on social media borders around your plan for the creative arts industry.
Yeah.
Because of your active role in that industry.
Yes. I was a musician, right?
Yes. I still remember some few lines. I'll drop it very soon. But let's talk about your plan for the creative arts industry.
So the creative arts industry, if managed well, will be able to really contribute to the GDP of this country. And the example that comes close to my mind is the example of Nigeria. That I remember, I think 2018, 2019, thereabout. If you look at the GDP of Nigeria, I think they surpassed that of South Africa by reason of the enormous contribution by the creative arts space. Now, I think the Great Transformational Plan, in the light of this, has identified, first of all, the challenges that we have in the creative arts space and then the solutions thereof. Now, if you look at the challenges, and I think is known to all of us, funding is a huge problem. Infrastructure is another problem. Our inability to now collaborate and create a platform where we'll be recognized globally is also another problem. Now, the first challenge that I'm talking about is funding. Now, how do we, what will be our prescription for it? The solution to the issue of funding is that we're going to create what we call the Creative Arts Fund. The Creative Arts Fund will be created by us so that we'll be able to support up-and-coming, for instance, musicians, up-and-coming poets, up-and-coming comedians, up-and-coming artisans, and all of that, so that they can also start their own businesses. But they will pay back once they make money from what they are doing. So we're going to create that fund. That fund will be there. Now, if you are a musician, because I was a musician, let me use music as an example. Okay. The biggest challenge that I faced when I was doing music, again, was funding. And so we had to now beg people to help us go to the studios to go and record, to shoot our music videos. to even have platforms of promoting. And at the time, the DJs were killing us. You know, you have to pay payola. Oh, you have to pay payola and all of that, right? Because of the lack of management, it was difficult for us to, you know, survive, right? Now, imagine that for a young musician who is very talented, given the opportunity by being resourced by government to now record their music, to now shoot their music videos, and also to now give them access to international platforms where they can sell their product. Once they make that money, they'll be able to pay back what was given to them by the fund, so that other people will be able to get the opportunity to also access the funding. Once we do that, believe you me, we'll be creating music moguls and entrepreneurs in this country. Individually, see what Shatawale is doing. Individually, see what Stonebwoy is doing. Individually, see what Sarkodie, Black Sheriff, Kim Promise, Famiye, Kwame Eugene, Kiddy, Efia, and all the rest are doing. Individually, by themselves. Imagine if they had governmental support. Imagine what they would do. So we must be intentional about it. Once we're intentional about it, that's it. Look at the film industry. It has collapsed. It has collapsed because we don't have any financial backing. Once we have financial backing, once there's a fund that can be accessed by our creatives, it will be easier for them to now create content so that we can enjoy, international community can enjoy, and everybody will make money in the final analysis. Also, it helps in the export of our culture, because right now it appears that the Gen Zs are not even able to now appreciate our culture very well because it's been dwarfed by globalization. You know, but yes, there's globalization, but through the creative arts space, we'll be able to what? We'll be able to now still bring our culture to a point where, you know, international community will recognize it. Even those of us here in this country will be able to recognize it. So we can also make money from it. The introduction of this December event by this government is good, you know, but after the fun, what next? You have to give people a reason to come back and stay. And that is what we are going to do. Those are the loopholes that we've identified, and we proffer solutions for them. So
beyond the return sort of event for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So locally and internationally.
Let's dive into the legal background now, because I know you're a lawyer.
Yes.
You've been following the issues happening in Parliament, haven't you?
Yeah.
The Supreme Court has ruled that the Speaker of Parliament declaration of the 4 seats vacant is unconstitutional. Yeah. Now, people are wondering, should the Speaker fail to actually heed to this directive? He could be facing some, you know, jail time.
Yep.
Looking at the back and forth in Parliament,
yep,
and having this background you do in law, what should be the way forward?
This is a very tricky question. And I'll be very candid with you.
Okay.
We have something, we say the law is the law.
Okay.
We say that, always we say that the law is the law. I don't have the benefit of the Constitution. If you do, read Article 97. I think that has been the bone of contention, correct? Now
yes,
the Supreme Court has made a final determination, so we can discuss it.
Which is?
Read Article 97.
Article 97, 1G and H is the actual part we're contending.
Please.
And I do not have the Constitution here, but I'm sure my producer will make it available.
Yeah. Yes.
That way we can get clarity on it. And the Supreme Court really in its ruling says the Speaker's declaration of the 4 seats vacant is unconstitutional.
Yeah, but unconstitutional, the unconstitutionality or otherwise of it, yes, may have to be determined by the Supreme Court, yes, but it can be determined if there is an issue of interpretation. And for me, from where I sit,
which is what Afrino Markin went to court.
But you see, if the law is clear, precise, there is no incongruity, there's no ambiguity in the law, in my estimation, it does not call for any interpretation. And this is interpretation 101. You only go for interpretation if the law is imprecise, if it is unclear, if it is ambiguous. In my very humble opinion, I do not find that provision in the Constitution ambiguous.
But
because it is clear. No, but that's the whole point.
The members
now,
of Parliament
listen,
were going to vacate their seats.
But you see,
in futuristic terms.
Hold on. Now, right now, are they are they doing business with MPP as we speak today?
Who is doing business with them?
Are the people who have declared that they're going to contest as independent?
Okay.
Are they doing business with the MPP now?
Well, they say in this parliament they are.
Yeah, but they are not doing. I think that what's her name? Cynthia Morrison is on record to have said that she's not doing business with the MPP. That's a fact. Now, the president, it is very important in our legal framework. Precedent. Now, if you look at Parliament as an independent institution, they have their own standing orders. And I'll read something to you right now, because I was doing a little bit of research on it, and I was still debating with my mind as to why the Supreme Court, first of all, even entertained that.
You are also of the opinion that the Supreme Court lacked jurisdiction?
In my estimation, I think they lack jurisdiction. Now, if you
when it comes to matters of interpretation, isn't the Supreme Court the right place to go?
But what is there to be interpreted? What is there to be interpreted?
Why do you
that is why I wanted you to read that.
Why do you think the Supreme Court lacks jurisdiction?
I'm not saying they lack in terms of interpreting the Constitution. They don't lack jurisdiction.
Okay.
That's a fact. But I'm saying that what is there to be interpreted? What is there to be interpreted? There are standing orders that guides the operations of Parliament. And those standing orders are what they have used over the period. Now, if you look at the previous Parliament, the same standing orders were used in relation to the MPP MP who decided to contest as an independent candidate. Read GNH.
If he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party or seek to remain in Parliament as an independent member, or if he was elected a member of Parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party. These are grounds on which a member of Parliament could vacate this.
Exactly. So even literally, read it. What does it say?
You want us to take it from its literal meaning?
Because,
the Supreme Court has ruled.
I do not want to question what went into the minds of the judges in making this determination. I am on record to have said that I think that it beggars belief as to why even the Speaker of Parliament entertained that to begin with. In my estimation, you don't have even responded to it, because this is an independent state institution that is clothed with a constitutional authority to discharge their obligations to the good people of Ghana. Simplicity. The judiciary is also clothed with an authority to do X, Y, Z. Now, look,
the Constitution is supreme, and the Supreme Court gives interpretation to the Constitution. Hence, the legislature must obey the judiciary. Isn't that the case?
But they were obeying the Constitution. We will come back to this conversation. In the next Parliament, you will find that a similar thing will occasion and a different ruling will be given to this.
What do you feel the posture of the Speaker of Parliament and the NDC MPs should be?
I feel that, and that is why I think we should do away with the NDC and the MPP. It is precisely what our democracy is being threatened. Our democracy is being threatened. And we are sitting there unconcerned. We are so married to our political parties that we are blinded by the exigencies of now. Like the fact that, our democracy is being threatened. And we are sitting there, we are happy, we are supporting gleefully. It is terrible, to say the least. And you have young people in this country supporting this. All these septuagenarians and octogenarians who are making these decisions on our behalf will die. In the next 5-10 years, they are gone. It will be left with you and I in this country to come and deal with the ramifications of their decisions by reason of their partisanship. That is a problem. And we must begin to put on our thinking caps. As young people of this country, we have a responsibility. That responsibility is not to the parties that we belong to. We have a responsibility to the Republic of Ghana. And that is our call to action. So if you're a young person and you're supporting these decisions and you think that for now, oh, it is my party, I am happy. Tomorrow, it may not be your party. Tomorrow, a decision will be taken. And that decision may very well affect you.
Why do you feel our democracy is threatened?
But see what is happening. See what is happening in Parliament. At the inception of this Parliament, you saw what happened when Babwin was about to be voted for. You saw what happened. To have the military enter the precinct of Parliament is sacrilegious. And we sat down unconcerned. As usual, we played partisan politics with it, and everybody smiled. We were all happy. We went about our normal business. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Are we so partisan to the point where we will relegate patriotism to the background because of what we will get?
You feel what is happening in Parliament is purely political?
Absolutely. Because there are no independent-minded members of Parliament. All of them are married to their political ideologies. There is not a single one of them. Look, at the very least, they have this they create this veiled attempt of federating and advancing our democracy. Okay, but when you pierce the veil and you go behind this veiled attempt, you will notice that every single thing that they do is in the interest of their political parties. It is not in the interest, or it is not in the collective good of the Ghanaian people. That, for me, is a problem. And that problem has to be addressed.
And you have the solution. Wrap up for me.
We have a solution. That's why I'm saying that we're going to have a second chamber of Parliament. And we're going to make sure that it is an independent second chamber of Parliament. First of all, we are going to create a government of national unity. So it does not matter whether you are MPP, CPP, KYZ. Insofar as you are patriotic, you think about the forward march of this country, we will bring you to come and work for Ghana. We're going to create a second chamber of Parliament. All right? Which is going to be independent. It's going to appoint the electoral commissioner. It's going to appoint the IGP. It's going to appoint the chief justice. The independent, second chamber of Parliament is going to appoint all those independent people who are supposed to manage the independent institutions we have in this country. And that is the way forward for this country. So I want to send this message out to the very good people of this country who are listening to me this morning. That look, we have enough of NMENDC and NMPP. It's too much. Let's think outside the box. We have given these people an opportunity. Now it is our time as the youth of this country. We control a larger majority of the population of this country. And therefore, we can be able to elect a leader who thinks about the youth of this country. On December 7th, let's shock the NDC and the MPP. Let's let them know that there's a leader who can govern this country, who has appointed one of your own, the youngest vice president, to partner him. So number 13,
my guest in the studio, KOD, thank you so much for your time here.
Thank you for staying.
And that's how we wrap up the bulletin. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Faustina. Safu, good morning.